Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. I'm your host, Nathaniel. I'm so pleased to have our special guest today, Gabby Roberts, who I've had the pleasure of meeting through school. Gabby is a nervous system guide and founder of Aligned Unapologetic, which is the name of her community also. And it's really, I love how you focus, Gabby, on leaders and helping people achieve like transcend emotional overwhelm through nervous system regulation. Really stepping into the important roles that they play in terms of being calm and confident and heart-led humans. We need more and more leaders like that. So I feel like it's very important work that you're doing, and I understand that you have a unique approach where you combine, energetics and mindset work as well as nervous system healing. So I'd love to welcome you to the show and for you to ask you to introduce yourself and let us know more about who you are and what has brought you to doing this kind of work in the world.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the intro. Like you said, I am a very big advocate on aligned and being aligned and what that means. And it all starts within you. There's many times that I myself didn't know what that meant. I
Mm,
definitely am into the nervous system regulation, the inner child healing, really pairing that with your powerful mindset, working on that neuroplasticity, and just realizing that there's another way to do it. We are all raised in this kind of toxic hustle culture where we're all taught to just go, 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 go until you
mm,
got nothing left and then keep going. I mean, my parents always taught me they're like, leave everything on the track, and
mm,
that worked for a time, but it ended up just burning me out over and over and over. And I came to realize that burnout is not as normal as we make it out to seem. And it
yes.
starts in, yes, powerful, having a good mindset, but also knowing what the body needs as well. So throughout my coaching, experiences, I've coached people one-on-one, I've coached people group setting. I'm starting to do retreats and fun little events for the school platform. And yeah, just realizing it felt very empowered to realize that there was another way to do things rather
Mm.
than just burning myself out back to back to back. But, I didn't learn that without burning out. I think burnout teaches you a valuable lesson of what your body needs, and then you're able to give it that.
Mm.
So
It's
it's
so
been a
important,
journey.
and especially in this day and age where, that hustle culture that you talk about, I feel like is so prominent because a lot of
Mm,
the people that look uh, who have achieved the results that a lot of maybe young people are aspiring to achieve, whether it's like the private jet or the mansions, there is a lot of that, that is taught, and
mhm,
I think when you're talking about nervous system regulation, and from my view, like my background's in indigenous wellness, so this idea that we're also connected to the land and our nervous systems are
mm,
connected. And when we're in coherence with ourselves and our true mission, rather than like pushing and grinding from a place of self-will, like because there's implications in our
mm,
impacts here on Earth, and we have a whole world that is hustling, like you said, and go, 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 and not considering the impacts are having on one another in terms of community, but also
yeah,
on our environment and everything. It is a big problem that isn't talked very much about. So
yeah.
what is the favorite part that you like to do in this work? You mentioned now you're doing retreats, you're doing group work, so it sounds like you're expanding, you're scaling your reach.
Mhm.
What's your like higher vision for the work that you're doing? What would you love to be going with that?
I think I would love to continue to build community in person. I
Mm,
think the online world is incredible, but we tend to have our walls up, our guards up a little bit because, there's everyone pitching, there's people, trying to sell things online, you know, there's cyberbullying, like there's a lot going on that dysregulates the nervous system. So
mm,
I want to show people in person that not only can you build a big community of people who love you and support you and know exactly what you're going through, but also to co-regulate. We
mm,
are so connected because we have, the phone in the hand, but yet we're the most disconnected we've ever been. And so
mm,
when I'm in person, it's like everyone gets to just kind of like let their walls down. And I know for some people it may feel like the opposite. It's like, I have a lot of social anxiety, but with myself included, I've worked through some of that social anxiety and
mm,
it's like when you just do it and you do it scared, that makes it worth it. And so for me, I just want to continue to connect people, not only to co-regulate, but show them how powerful their path is. The way I like to end my podcast is be fearless, be free, and do it your way. Like even
Mm,
if it looks messy or feels messy. So for me, it's just to be the living proof of I feel the fear, I feel scared, I feel the challenges, I feel all of those things, but I don't let it stop me. And so
mm,
what I think kind of separates some quote unquote successful to some quote unquote not successful people is that they stop at that moment of discomfort, of fear. But what I like to help people see is that they can push through that. And not only are they in a way that honors their nervous system, honors their
mm,
body, honors their healing journey, because all many of us are, growing and healing from something traumatic, and that's okay. To just again show them that it is possible, show them that it's another way, show them that the people they idolize and have put on this big pedestal are simply people who have tried more than they've ever failed.
mm,
And it doesn't make them less capable. It
mhm,
just means they have to keep going. And it's like every time I see my clients and myself, it just light up when they get this like aha moment of like, oh my gosh, I could do this too. And that's what I love the school platform too, because I'm over here sitting here being like, oh, like those are the big dogs. Like I could never. And then I met a few people in real life and they showed me like, Gabby, these gifts, these things you're running from are your gifts. Like the
mm.
way that you do things authentically and messy and unapologetically, like that is your gift. And so I just felt so welcomed and so heard and seen and validated that I was like, man, I could turn around and continue to show people that they can do that too. And
Mm.
like, if I connect with one person in person or online, like I've done my job. I'm here. I've made it, because there's so many people out there healing and growing and trying to balance a life and a business and parenthood, feeling like they're alone. So just to find your people and connect to those people and connect to the people that you would never think that you'd meet just because you got out of your comfort zone. So just
Mm.
really just deep communication, deep connection, and just deep healing is the goal for me.
Yeah, well, there's so much beautiful words that you have in there, and I love the picture you portrayed. And I really do feel like that's one of the unique things of school. And I'd love for you
Hmm.
to share more of your experience because I know you've become a school
Yeah,
mayor in North Carolina as well, right?
very
Which is a
fun.
very yeah, it's an amazing thing. And for those of our listeners who maybe don't know what school is and why it's significant and important, I think one of the things you mentioned is I was introduced to this term IRL, and I joke around. I said, I thought all of this was IRL. I didn't think there was some things that were not IRL, but
Yeah.
it's part of the internet lingo, and I think it really is. We need one another, and I don't think we're meant to
Hmm.
live in this, especially in the West. Everyone has their own box that they live in, and people in the city here, at least where we are staying right now, it's very like people keep
Hmm.
themselves, they don't acknowledge one another, and I feel like
Yeah.
we're longing for something deeper, but it does require us to step out of our comfort
Yes.
zones to be okay, to be messy and unapologetic, like you're
Hmm.
saying, and to do it scared. One of my favorite musicians, Tom Petty,
Yeah.
he had stage fright like his whole career, which I think, that just blows my mind to think that he
Yeah.
had stage, fright after decades of getting on the stage. So, yeah, there's a
Hmm.
lot of wisdom in what you're sharing, Gabby. So, yeah, would you like to share more about, how you're utilizing the network of school to do this inspired work that you're
Yeah.
that you're doing?
Yeah, definitely. And this also brings up a topic that is dear to my heart. It's with the familiar hell versus the uncomfortable heaven. And so
Mm,
while you're growing and learning and connecting with people on school or not on school, it takes this deep amount of discomfort, this incredible amount of courage to get yourself out there. And
mm,
when I first went to my own school IRL, which just means in real life event, it was like this light bulb in my mind went off. And it just, I've been on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and, all these other platforms. And they're fine, but they are missing one true piece to just kind of have all your people in one space where you can just hang out and connect and not make it all about the business, not make it all
mm,
about sales and marketing and just pushiness. That's where we lose a lot of people on platforms like Facebook and Instagram and sometimes like even LinkedIn. It's just people are a little too pushy, but on school. I've seen it be more of like a family, more of like a round table, like you're genuinely sitting down at dinner and eating with somebody and talking about them and just opening up yourself.
Mm,
And I noticed that first when I went to my first event, I was like, oh, like I don't have the star at that point. I didn't have it. And I had my little fire sign, which is like, your 30-day leader. And you can see I'm being consistent, but I was like, I don't have these things. I thought you had to show up with this version of success when really they were like, all of those things fades away. And I
mm,
love that about school because I used to get nervous when I would talk about meeting people I kind of idolized. And I realized like they're just humans. They're literally just like me. They feel fear, they feel loss and grief and pain and
hmm
all of the things just like I do. So I was like, what's the difference? The difference is nothing. They're just
mm,
people. They're just
mm,
people who have gone again, tried more times than I had failed. So that success, and also when you see these quote unquote successful people, sometimes the most successful people don't even think they're successful because they're chasing the version of success. So it's when you are meeting people on school, it just, for some reason, the school's got this vibe of just like kind of put my guard down. Like
hmm
I get to be me. I get to be whatever version of me that I really want to be. And that's something I ran from for years. I tried to
Yeah.
hide myself. I tried to mask myself. I tried to like be the version everyone wanted me to be.
Mm,
But then I realized again, like one, it burnt me out every time. I got tired of running from myself. And then I realized I can never outrun myself and I don't want to. I was these inner demons people talk about really aren't demons at all. They're just parts of you that
mm,
needed love. And we were taught over time to just ignore them or dismiss them or, that you're weak or pathetic or,
hmm
whatever people say. So when I saw the school platform, I was like, wow, this is so cool. I get to have my group. I get to post whatever I want. It's like you kind of run your own algorithm here too. It's not a lot of, you know, trendy topics. There's not doom scrolling. Like it's
Right.
just people supporting each other as one
Yeah.
big, massive family. And the
Yeah.
weirder you are, the goofier you are on school, the more you stand out. I mean, you see Goose like just out here
Yeah.
wearing his funny little outfits, looking like a badass, and
Yeah.
he gets to show up as himself and be successful. And that's what I love about school. It's not you can be successful or yourself. It's you get to
Mm.
have both. And that's what really spoke to me. Yeah.
Yeah, so much there. I mean, the ability to be authentic and to
Hmm.
thrive is, I think, so needed. I feel like there's a generational gap in terms of I think, like I grew up without the internet. I only had really access to that in my later teens. And now, like, we have children are being born in an age of AI, and there's this
Hmm.
acceleration of technologies which allows us to be more connected, but it also means that like mind viruses, memes spread faster, and people want to like
Hmm.
fit in, like,
Yeah,
but
everyone's comparing each other.
exactly. I mean, I remember scrolling on Instagram at some point, maybe like 5 years ago, and being like, man, everyone has an infinity pool but me.
Yeah, right. You're over here
Why does
wanting
everyone have an
things that aren't
infinity pool?
actual
Yeah.
your desires. They're just what everyone else wants you to
Right.
do.
I mean, infinity pool would be really cool. But like I think, yeah, I remember listening to Grant Cardone on stage one day, and he basically, I was reading between the lines of what he was saying, and he was basically telling everyone how anxious he was, and he was only able to become like at peace when he had like over $100 billion. And I'm
Mm.
like, and I realized, what Tony Robbins said in interviewing over 50 billionaires, how one, potentially two of them were genuinely happy. I feel like a lot of what we've been sold in terms of what will make us fulfilled is
Hmm.
is not this like high level
Yeah.
of flow, but really, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. And I feel like having that kind of success can allow someone to amplify their impacts. And
Hmm.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. But in terms of starting from a place of coherence, starting from a place of nervous system regulation, finding that
Yeah.
comfort with yourself, allowing yourself to be just the
Yeah.
authentic, silly. I mean, I call myself on school like I don't know if I'm a artist or a cosmedian, because like when I was on Goosify, that was the first time like I just went full on bore with this
Yeah.
natural comedic part of me. And I was just having fun. I didn't even know about the leaderboards. I didn't know about
Mm-hmm.
points. I didn't know. I was just, it was just like the Wild West. I'm like, I feel like this is what the internet was supposed to be. Um, and so I really appreciate what you're saying. It's so important. So in starting, like, there's a lot of people out there, Gabby, especially in these times where there's so much change. I just came
Mm-hmm.
back today I used to work at a college, teaching, and they just had like tons of major layoffs. There's a lot of people, facing, you know, change, and whether
Mm-hmm.
it's, causing stress or uncertainty. What would be some things that you would say to folks who are on the cusp of this kind of change, to some tools that they could use to regulate their nervous system now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many ways. I can absolutely give a few tools, but I want to also encourage like you and all the listeners here to really find what works for you. Because for
Hmm.
a long time, again, I was just chasing this thing I was supposed to do. Again, that's why some of these
Yeah.
billionaires are not quote unquote happy. Because one, they didn't define what their own happiness was, and they just decided it was
Mm.
that, you know? Because again, if you get that $1 billion, is that going to regulate you? And then some
Mm.
people will say, yes, of course. No, you'll get the money, and then guess what you'll do? You take a breath, you tell yourself everything's going to be okay. And so that's some of the tools that come with or without money. So as we
Mm.
chase it, and I did the same, trust me, I've made a lot of money in my life and I was like, I did it. Why am I still so unhappy? And it's because like that money isn't the North Star, if you will.
Mm.
That money is used to go out and actually have the things that you like. And also there's a misconception that you have to be happy all the time. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people who chase happiness when really like if you actually look at someone who's happy 24/7, that's not a thing. No one's
Mm.
happy 24/7. And the
Mm.
happiest people are the ones who feel the deepest. So just first, let me just say, well, for all the money chasers out there, that's okay to be chasing it. You are doing what you know, which is that familiar hell, right?
Mm.
And the uncomfortable heaven of it all is to be really truly regulated in all that you do. I'm not saying you will be regulated 24/7, but what helps in that time is while you're stepping into this new version of you, which your body will fight with everything it has, like a kid not wanting to leave Chuck E. Cheese, it'll be like, nope, I'm not going. And you have to kind of learn to work through those uncomfortableness. So while you're uncomfortable, you got to ask yourself, am I growing or am I sabotaging? Because there's a difference in the feeling of ruining a good thing because you're chasing something else and you're not
Mhm.
feeling fulfilled, or pushing yourself past that moment of discomfort to then get the thing that you want. Like when we work out, like when we, um, grow a business. It's hard, it's
Yeah.
painful, but we choose our hard. So while you're regulating, um, my breath is one of my favorite things. I'm always focusing on the 5 4 3 2 1 grounding technique. For me,
Mm.
it's five things I can see, and I'm describing them in great detail and out loud most of the time because sometimes our brain is not in charge. Our brain is not here to keep you happy, it's here to keep you alive, and it will do things that make you upset. That's its job. It's okay. So while your brain's freaking out about whatever it's freaking out about, the 5 4 3 2 1 is a great one. This is something you can
Mhm.
do anywhere, anytime. You can say it out loud or not. I always have things to touch to physically, I have my crystals. That's going into the four. So, four things you can feel,
Mhm.
describing them in great detail. Three things you can hear, describing it in great detail. Two things you can smell. For me, I really love the frankincense smell.
Mm.
I just like give a little whiff or I put it on my wrists. I really just focus on describing the smell because what
Mhm.
you're doing is your brain's freaking out about that thing that it's freaking out about, that's what it's designed to do. And you bring it from kind of here to the rest and digest. So the last
Mm.
one is just saying what you can taste. Sometimes it's your toothpaste, coffee, something that you ate, or just the natural taste in your mouth. But I notice sometimes before I even get to the level of telling myself I'm okay or telling myself you're going to get through it or whatever, I have to first feel how I feel and
Mm.
admit that when I am feeling dysregulated or anxious or overwhelmed or angry or sad or whatever the feeling, that one, I kind of look down at my body and just, oh, how are we feeling? We're feeling like, kind of scared. We're feeling maybe shitty. We're feeling really shaky. We're a little bit afraid. That's okay, and just like allow myself to accept how I'm feeling. Because it's like is if you had a friend run up to you and saying, I'm anxious, and you're going, you're not anxious, you're okay. But the body and the mind are battling here. They're like, okay, well,
Yeah.
you're telling me I'm safe, but my body disagrees.
Yeah.
So you have to, when you get to that point of self-soothe, um, which is also very grounding, is finding the words that actually feel true to you. Like if you're having a panic attack and you just say, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm fine, but your body disagrees, none of these other tools are really going to help unless you feel actually grounded first. And so
Mhm.
when you start to soften and the body goes, okay, that's when you know it's working. So I like to take deep breaths, in through the nose, deep into the belly, not into the chest originally. Doing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, shaking, swaying, rocking, swaying, crying. Just there's so many ways to ground yourself, but find what works for you. Try to, not deny your body that there is a threat. Just because you don't know what the threat is or you disagree with the threat doesn't mean that there isn't one, but the feelings are real, they're just not always true. So you want to
Mhm.
make sure you're validating that part that's freaking out because it's not that that isn't happening. It's just that you are safe. And sometimes I'll even tell my body, like, hey, we're not dying. I know you think we are right now, but we're not. We're not dying. We're learning. Like, this is intentional growth. So, anyway, I could go on for days about different somatic tools to release the energy. Um, and, oftentimes we talk about, well, why is this happening or how can I fix it? When really it's not about fixing it and it's not even about learning why. Sometimes it's just about providing your body a safe space to get through it. Like sometimes I cry and I genuinely have no idea why I'm crying that day. I'm just like, oh, I must need to release, and that's okay, you
Yeah.
know? So just we're all raised to not like admit that we're not okay.
Yeah.
And that's a
Suppress
big
the
part of it is
feelings.
just admitting that, yeah, don't suppress them. Just admit that, hey, I'm not okay right now, but I
Yeah.
will be, and
Yeah.
I'll get there. So just
Yeah.
treating
That's
yourself as if you would a friend.
Yeah, and I love that. That's so key, right? It's like redeveloping
Mm-hmm.
a relationship with your body. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. I find like in the spiritual kind of domains, a lot of people dismiss the body. They'll call it like
Mm.
a meat suit or an
Yeah.
illusion, and I really look at the body as like a soulful partner that we're engaged
Yeah.
with,
It's a
and it
messenger.
has its own like extreme level of intelligence. I
Very
mean,
wise. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's beyond
Mm-hmm.
our personal consciousness in a lot of ways. And
Mm-hmm.
so when we're able to find that coherence and to develop a rapport with it, because often those
Yeah.
signals are telling us something we need to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And when we ignore them, you brought up a few points. One of them was reminded me of well, first of all, I think the simplest thing is just observe children, especially very young children and
Mm-hmm.
babies. They just
Yeah.
they flow through everything,
Mm-hmm.
and we get to a certain age where we're told beliefs and we're conditioned by the
Yeah.
grown-ups around us, like, okay, straighten up and
Mm-hmm.
like stop crying, and but the
Yep.
crying is literally a way that we do regulate. And I mean, if you watch
Yeah.
animals too, like a duck's getting a little
Mm-hmm.
squirmish and then they shake themselves
Yep.
off
They
because they
shake.
don't hold it
Yep.
on, so it's the
Yeah.
stress that over time it causes illness
Mm-hmm.
in the body, it's disease, right,
Yeah.
which leads to more complications. And there was one thing, I don't know if you've heard of this uh, author. She's not very well known from my experience, but her name is Laurel Elizabeth Keyes, and she wrote a book on toning. And it might be
Mm.
another. Have you heard of toning before, Gabby?
I'm not sure I have.
It's interesting because so she really worked with sound in terms of healing, and she describes like toning is just allowing the body, like starting from the lower kind of resonance, to just allow the body to make sound. And it often just wants to elevate and go into these high
Mm-hmm.
pitched sounds, and it's not forcing sound. What she says is the mind gets to a place where it starts to suppress the natural sound that the body would want to make. And I was just thinking of this recently, like our daughter
Mm.
had um, like she's had this a couple times. She wakes up, she's 2 years young, and she wakes up in the middle of the night, like inconsolable, like she's just deep
Mm.
crying. She's not
Poor thing.
her lucid self. And I know of a thing called night terrors, right? And it's this,
Mm.
so she's still in like a very subconscious state, and her body is
Yeah.
just releasing all this energy and through sound, whether she's, picked up the pain bodies of others, or
Mm-hmm.
she's having her own discomfort, and the body's just releasing. And I feel like we get to a certain age where we stop allowing the body. We don't
Yeah.
yell, we don't cry, we hold it
Yeah.
in. And we need to do that. So I love your
Mm-hmm.
message about doing it messy, doing it scared.
Yeah.
And I feel like at the heart of it, that's what community is for, right? It's for
Yeah.
holding a container, a safe space to remind us
Mm-hmm.
how similar we are in our
Yeah.
needs, right?
Yeah, and that you don't have to do this alone.
Mm,
Like I love kids and animals that do this. And I have people ask me often, like, Gabby, how are you so happy? And I'm like, because I cry really hard about the things that make me sad. And I
mm,
go and I let out my rage. That rage is sacred. After
mm.
years and years of being manipulated and lied to and abused and gaslit, like that's a lot to hold on for a
Yeah.
person. And the
Yeah.
body, like you said, is very intelligent. It knows what it needs, but the logic brain tries to tap in and it's like, oh, we can't do that or we can't do that because it doesn't make sense. And I'm like, you don't need to make sense to
Mm,
release. Like
mm.
some days, I'm not even kidding. I will go and I will grab a pillow and I will scream as loud as I can in the pillow. And if that doesn't do it, I will punch the pillow on my bed, can't hurt myself, like, and let this anger out. And I
Yeah.
honestly, I talked about having just this business idea of like genuinely like finding some soundproof room and
Mm.
just letting like every high stress environment needs like its own little rage room to
Yeah.
just go in there and cry, scream, like let it out because
Yeah.
every single time I let it out, most times that deep cry, I'm not crying all day every day. No, I
Yeah.
cry hard for maybe 5, maybe 10 minutes and then I'm fine.
Mm,
I literally like let it out. And I have a whole playlist on my phone called Feel It to Heal It. Because
mm,
once I feel it, even for 5 minutes, even if I shed a single tear, I feel better, even 1% better. And so it's like all of these people who are, talking about being healed and how nothing bothers them. I'm like, are you actually healed or are you just avoiding your triggers like the plague? Because
yeah.
I've done it too. And of course, it's painful to let those things out. I don't
Yeah.
love it. I can admit that. I don't love to feel so angry. I don't love to feel
Sure.
deep grief for the people I've lost or the people who are still alive and I'm not close with anymore, or the versions of myself. And so
Mm,
it's very important to let your body allow that to release. And I think if people could like see their energy, and a lot of spiritual people they can see energy and they can see auras, but a lot of people cannot, and that's okay. We're still kind of waking up to it not being woo-woo and it being more like genuine scientific at that point.
mm,
When
mm.
you allow the body to release, if you could just see how much energy is pent up
Yeah.
in all of your chakras, you'd be like, oh, well, that one needs to be cleared. Well, that one
Mm,
needs to be cleared. It would be so simple. But again, the nervous system and the logic brain tend to butt heads a lot when
yeah.
knowing what I need in the moment. So a very key um, thing for me and my clients is when I don't know what I need. And it's like I just don't know. Because when you're actually regulated and you like shut the brain off, the heart usually knows what it needs. The gut knows
Mm,
what it needs in that moment. But we deny ourselves from the thing that we need, especially men, because we weren't really grown up told that we're
mhm.
allowed to let those go. And women are made fun of it for being too emotional or all these things. But it's like look at what we have learned from children and from animals who just release some of those things. That's why I love getting into the somatic of it all, the sound healing, the sense, the things I just allow into my energy, because that
Mhm.
energy is so vital. If we just learn to replenish it and not pour from our own, you know, sacred stash, we'd have more energy. But it's just we don't know till we know.
Totally.
And we only start learning when we're so burnt out that what we're doing clearly just isn't working and we're like we have to do something different, so it's kind of forced upon us, and that's where again that brings up some of that the familiarity. We oftentimes choose things that we know even though sometimes it's not that helpful. It's just we know what we've been taught, and rinse and repeat. That's why the generations of the trauma has kind of been passed, and our parents weren't exactly taught to release either, and their
Hmm.
parents definitely weren't. So
Yeah.
it's like we all have to attempt to release it now, but we're not just releasing little blips. We're releasing trauma from generations that came before us. So
Yes.
it's a lot and it's heavy stuff, but I think we're all learning. I think part of it's just learning and growing and seeing what works for you and what your body needs, because everyone's different, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much truth in everything you're sharing there, Gabby. And I like to think that we're, um, I feel like we are at a really interesting paradigm shift in terms of, having not only access to information, but I think community is a good filter for our ability to disseminate these things and
Mm-hmm.
share what's open. Our parents and our parents' parents did not really
Yeah.
have that
Mm-mm.
same kind of access, and also the
Yeah.
opposite's true as well. It's very easy to isolate yourself even more, to just sit in front
Mm-hmm.
of a streaming service, or now there's multiple streaming services, and just get
Yeah.
lost in, hearing the stories of others to avoid. Like, so it's much
Mm-hmm.
easier to avoid now, as well as it's much easier to awaken and to embrace and to,
Yeah.
to shed those things. You might enjoy an acronym that came to me years ago, for fear. And I haven't perfectly mastered this in every area of my life, but it's been helpful. And it's feel everything and remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that ability to, what you said, feeling everything,
Mm-hmm.
you alluded to it earlier, or maybe just touched on it, but the happiest people, you said, are the ones who
Mm-hmm.
can experience the most thing. And people don't realize it's a spectrum. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't allow yourself to feel deep sadness or
Mm-hmm.
remorse or anger, it's very difficult for you to experience like true joy and
Yeah.
cheerfulness and happiness, because you are numbing yourself to this kind of middle
Mm-hmm.
ground where you're not really alive at all. So it requires
Yeah.
us to go into those depths as well. And that is scary for people who
Yeah.
maybe haven't opened their hearts in years, who haven't
Yeah.
allowed themselves to feel, who have been numbing it through. I mean, there's so many ways that people do
Yeah.
it, from pill popping to shopping to all
Yeah.
the many ings.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Trying to
so I,
hang on, hang
yeah.
in there and do what they know.
Mhm.
It's a lot of repetitive habits that we're doing the best we can and we don't know any different, you know. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. If you're like, this isn't working, what needs to change to, you know, to start growing? Sometimes it's just being in a better environment with better people who have better habits. Like
Yes.
it's, but find that thing that works for your body, even if
Mm,
it looks different from somebody else. That's where the unapologetic part comes in. There's so
mm,
many ways that people are like, well, this worked for all these people. And I'm like, well,
mm.
that's okay. I'm
Right.
different. And it's a little lonely sometimes when I feel like
Yeah.
I'm swimming against the crowd, but
Yeah.
I'd rather swim against the crowd than burn out
Yeah,
or
exactly.
feel like I'm not aligned and not true to what I want in this world.
Totally. And
Yeah.
I really like how you phrase that, familiar hell versus uncomfortable heaven.
Hmm.
Can you share a little bit more, like maybe an example that someone you've
Yeah.
helped, or for yourself, of like knowing that you're in uncomfortable heaven? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Okay. So first, I think it is important to know what the familiar hell feels like. Because once you're in it and you're like, okay, this is not what I want, I feel it, it feels icky. For instance, sometimes I'll give a business example and then a relationships. We'll start with relationship. You are in the familiar hell, right? You know you're going to argue with your partner, you're going to make up the next day with some half-ass apology or just sweep it under the rug, you'll cry yourself to sleep and repeat, right? The familiar heaven is sitting down, is having a conversation with someone of, hey, this is what I need. I don't like the way we're being treated. I don't think it's okay that we go to bed asleep angry or whatever like that.
Mhm.
It is much, much easier to run away, to be dismissive, to be like, whatever, they mean well, you know? But at the same time, that is not always healthy, but it's familiar. That familiarity is your nervous system loves predictability. So
Mm,
when you're asked to not run away, not shut down, not be avoidant, not be anxious, not to calm down and to communicate properly, that is difficult, especially if you're grown up in an environment where that healthy communication was never modeled for you. You're like, how the hell do I communicate properly? I don't know. I didn't know. I literally went to therapy to learn this, not because there was really anything wrong. It just was like, I don't know how to connect in this way. I don't know how to
yeah.
communicate what I'm trying to say because I had an anxious avoidant attachment style, you know? So, sitting down and having that uncomfortable conversation of saying, these are my boundaries, these are my needs, you know, that's the comfortable hell sometimes or uncomfortable heaven sometimes. Even then the uncomfortable heaven can mean leaving your relationship completely, but would you just sweep it under the rug because, oh, we've been together for years and they didn't mean it or whatever you tell yourself because you know that that's familiar? So that's the familiar hell. When you know you're not being treated right, you know you deserve better, but you stay because your nervous system is like, well, at least I know what the days are going to look like, you know? Because it
Yeah.
is foreign to go out and to break up and to start over and to be alone. But
Hmm.
if someone is really being that toxic, that alone time is a gift. It's just a blessing in disguise. You don't realize it.
Mm.
So also that's the difference there. And it's not always, big things like you're being treated awful, but your nervous system's always taking notes. That little thing that they didn't notice that you asked them for, like these things deserve to be brought up. And the hard conversations in your relationship should not tear you apart. They should bring you together. Because
Yeah.
yes, I know in the moment it feels like you're being chased by a freaking tiger, and then afterwards it feels like you just got hit by a dump truck. Like it's not fun, it's not easy. Sometimes there's tears, sometimes you got to take breaks and come back. Sometimes it takes months to really like get the whole conversation out. But it's worth it because that's the heaven that you want, the ideal situation. So, um that's what it looks like in a relationship, but it also happens in business.
Mm.
When I got told no in the beginning of my business many, many times, I was like, well, screw that. I'm not going to go try to sell anyone anything again. I obviously
Mm.
suck. I'm obviously not good at it, right? So I'm doing these things that are kind of spiraling, but not quite making the sales. But the thing is that uncomfortable heaven is to just get better at sales and not in a way that's pushy or icky or
Hmm.
sleazy, but a way that works for me through the discomfort. Because it is very uncomfortable to train your mind and your nervous system to want to do the hard things. Again, new is foreign, and foreign to the nervous system and the brain is like death. It's like you're asking me to jump off a cliff, and I don't know that there's a net at the bottom. But
Mm.
there is a net, because you eventually get there and you work through those uncomfortable times. But the times where you run away and you find yourself cleaning in the middle of the day or doom scrolling on Instagram because you'd rather just, oh, I'm doing market research. No, you're not. You're afraid to go get back in those DMs and go
Yeah.
connect with the people because you got rejected.
Yeah.
So it's not your fault. You're not broken. You're just conditioned, especially if you grew up with, any kind of trauma, any kind of abandonment, neglect, abuse of any kind. It makes things hard because when you're in a relationship or parenting or running a business or working on yourself, and you say, hey, I'm a relationship coach. What do you think life's going to throw at you?
Mm.
Relationship problems. I'm a business coach. I teach you sales, whatever. What is life going to throw you? Challenges in those things to allow you to get better. But the familiarity, it says, okay, cool. I'm going to run back to my safety corner,
Yeah.
my little hidey hole, because there it's
Yeah.
safe. But where am I learning there? Am
Yeah.
I growing there? No. So it's not at the end of the day worth it because on your deathbed, are you going to say, oh, I wish I didn't do those hard things that made me better? Hell no. You're going to say, I wish I did more of those hard things that I wanted to.
Yeah.
So it's just about training the body and training the nervous system to do it. So after you do that thing, you have to start very small and then go, woo, woo, you did it, and celebrate that little baby thing as if you just ran a marathon. Because then your body will start to learn, your brain will give you that feedback loop of, oh,
Mm.
okay, releases a little bit of dopamine here and there, going, you can do it. And also the confidence and the inspiration and the motivation we're all looking for comes after you do that hard thing. And then you go out and your brain looks for more ways that it can do more things. So,
Mm.
like that pain, the discomfort is not a stop sign. It's a green light saying you're on the right path. But many people don't know that. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's wonderful, Gabby. It's a really good reminder. I often wonder what, led to this because I big part of like lighter vision is about embodying higher vision, and a lot of that work
Hmm.
is somatic, and it's also gaining clarity on that unique purpose that we
Yeah.
came here to experience. And there can be a lot of times inner conflicts that prevent people from that embodiment. We've talked about some of them, and a lot of it I think just boils down to beliefs. And so I like how you brought up the challenge that many of us are faced with
Hmm.
are handed down to us because they're just repeated patterns that have been passed down
Yep.
generationally from like maybe our parents were emotionally shut down and
Hmm.
grew up in dysfunction, so they didn't
Yep.
really know how to have those hard conversations. I grew up with a lot of that,
Hmm.
and I grew up in a very secular family. So what if it wasn't like, you just work and you live and that,
Yeah.
and I was a very expansive thinker, even from a young age. I had big questions that I was trying to answer, so I didn't really have that connection. So it has made,
Yeah.
but I agree what you're saying, and we've heard a lot of different inspiring people talk about this, that our challenges are what cause us to grow and
Yeah.
and allow us to serve in a higher way.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So on that note, what do you find, we're in this time of, what's the saying? I think it's a Chinese proverb, like may you live to see interesting times. And clearly we are
Mm,
in interesting times. We have like
yeah.
emergent technologies, we have totally changing economies and relationships all
Hmm.
around the world. What do you feel is like the lesson for our, if we looked at our whole species and like and maybe another way to answer this is like, what is your higher vision for our world? What would you like to see? And what do you feel like these challenges are teaching us to arrive to that? I know it's a big question, but
Mm.
just curious.
It is, but you also just mentioned embodiment, and I think that's a very important. Is not just throwing out, do as I say, not as I do. Like, it needs to be the opposite. Is like, don't listen to what I say, watch what I do. Because if
Mm,
the world as a whole just started just continuously taking so much action, even if it's messy, we're going to learn from that. A lot of the very successful people have just bounced back. I I know it's silly to call myself something, but if I had to call myself like anything, it'd be like the comeback queen, like the pivot queen. You just pivot and you try something else. But we are scared or conditioned not to grow. We create our own little glass ceiling. And then we're modeling what that we're giving up time and time again, and then we're
mm,
modeling that. So there's this story that I cannot even remember where I heard it, but it's about this dog, and she's a mama, she's pregnant with babies. She gets hit by a car
mm,
and she loses the use of her back legs. She still births the babies, but the babies, all of them, are dragging around their back legs.
mm,
Why? Not because their legs are broken. There's nothing
mm,
wrong with their legs, because their mom didn't model the behavior. And so we're all wanting people to be better. We're wanting ourselves to be better. We're getting these insanely high expectations on ourselves and putting so much pressure on ourselves to be better, to be perfect, to just have it all figured out while we're controlling everything rather than just taking action and just
mm,
embodying the growth that you want to see. That's why I love the way that I have this brand, Aligned and Unapologetic, because in order to get into that alignment, you got to be unapologetic about it. Everyone has to go and try the things that people are saying to do. And it's not always about knowing the right way. It's about finding, again, just what works for you. And if we're
mm,
all collectively doing that, we can say, not only do I want my loved ones to be better, but here's how. Because a lot of people, we're missing the how. A lot of us communities, we want to be better. Of course we do.
mhm,
Not many people I speak to who are addicted to anything say, I don't want to be drunk. I don't want to be high. I just want to feel normal.
mhm,
This
mhm,
is also some people with trauma as well. They're feeling anxious. I don't want to feel anxious. I just want to feel normal. And they're running from this pain that can teach them so much. So
mhm,
it's like if we can just continuously embody the growth that we want to see, we get to be role models. We get to break generational trauma because not only is it, oh, well, I did what I had to. No, I did what I could with the tools that I have, which, yes, not many people had tools, and that's where some of the generational trauma comes. But if we're all taking so much action all of the time,
mhm,
then we're going to go through a lot more things that don't work because that's what everyone's on the hunt for, is to feel normal, to feel sane, to feel safe, to feel confident, you know, in their relationships, in themselves. So
mhm,
if we were all just stop running from ourselves and just took the action and really truly like modeled what we wanted to see, I think it'd be a lot easier to connect with other people because we're all probably doing better. But it's a big vision. It's going to take time. It's going to take collective, but human behavior, the only actual way to change any other human person is by modeling the behavior you want to see. If
mhm,
you
mhm,
say with love to the person you care about, hey, I'd love for you to eat healthier, or, maybe not indulge in some of these bad coping techniques, or just take care of your body a little bit more. We can say it with love, we can wrap a pretty bow on it, but either way, it still feels like pressure, and
mhm,
pressure most of the time feels like pain.
mhm,
So if we just ease up on some of the pressure and just become what we need, like truly, we'll have so much more action being taken so people can learn to do it on their own and get out of that victim mentality. I think we could save this whole earth if we all just work together,
mhm.
But it starts with taking our masks off, learning to ground together, and then taking that aligned action together, not right or left, man or woman, masculine versus whatever, like the human race as a whole. I think we're very powerful, but we've been divided into all of these parts. So if we
Yeah.
could just kind of snap out of that, then we'd be better off. And you can't do it as a whole. You can't force it either. You can't force alignment. You can't force those things. There's an energetic disconnect when you try to force it. So
Hmm.
that's the hard part is you gotta wait for people to wake up in their own time and hope that they learn, hope that they take action, hope that they stumble upon people who are willing to learn without judgment. There's a lot of us who are judging each other. Oh, you don't know that? No. No one taught it to me. Like, no, I
Yeah,
don't know it. Like,
exactly.
how do you know until someone freaking teaches it to you or until
Yeah.
you learn it yourself? So it's just like we all gotta be nicer to ourselves and the people around us. I think we could absolutely thrive as a human race.
Yeah. Yeah, I fully agree with you. The only part I would maybe challenge you on is that it has to take a long time. I really feel like
Mm.
what you said is so important about the embodiment piece.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like every master that has been the foundation of every kind of movement or whatever has demonstrated a different way of that. Love is a real
Yeah.
power in the universe, and I feel
Yeah.
like I've had some moments myself where I've just been, they've changed my demeanor entirely and my view of possibility. And my again, bringing up Tom Petty again because it inspired this contemplation for me my whole life. He said, it was a recording at a concert, and he said, what if just for one moment, everywhere and everyone, just for one moment, everything was all right. And
Mm.
I really like that. And that's part of what was the impetus of the Moment Home Miracle, which is a community operating system that was inspired from writing the memoir of our daughter's birth. Because even though I have seen some really incredible things, I've witnessed like instantaneous manifestations. I've encountered a being of pure light. I've been in circles and ceremonies where I've felt that power of love so
Mm.
beautifully and energetically, but also powerfully. Like it was intimidating. Talk about
Mm-hmm.
scare. I find it's kind of a paradox that we would be scared of the power of love, but
Yeah.
it is scary because
It
it's
is
intense.
scary. Yeah,
And
it
it's
is.
so truthful. Like there's
Can be
no.
overwhelming.
It is overwhelming, right? But when she emerged and I had the opportunity to catch her, Gabby, like the level
Mm.
of presence in her whole beingness and her like just pure like presence. It just came through every part of her and just really hit every part of me. And I was just like, this is the most
Mm.
incredible miracle. And I could have ended there just like, I'm now, Father, this is the most incredible miracle. My daughter's the most incredible being in the world or the universe. But I really spent a lot of time thinking like how much we all are these miracles.
Mm-hmm.
And we just kind of like, and I think it's from all the things we've
Yeah.
been discussing. We have these layers that we've covered ourselves by our own avoidance, our own, you know, um, being apologetic about ourselves. And
Yeah.
I'm talking to you from Ottawa, Canada. So we have a tendency of saying sorry for no reason at all,
Mm.
all the
Yep.
time. You've probably met a few Canadians, it's a habit. And
Yeah. A lot of us are like
oh
that.
yeah, okay. And I feel like it's refreshing to this idea of just being more like who we innately are, like the children that we are
Mm-hmm.
experiencing. So I love the message that you're bringing. I love that that's like a core part of the brand.
Yeah.
And also, what does it feel like to see, helping people transform is one thing, but helping
Mm-hmm.
leaders transform who are also
Mm-hmm.
going and impacting others in often significant ways. Do you have any stories you'd like to share? How has that uplifted you in your journey?
Yeah, this is dear to my heart because as I prepare to have a child of my own, we all, every good parent wants to give their kid what they never had, but we sometimes forget about the little inner child in me, in us, in us all. And so when you say, you're commonly saying sorry, that's typical for so many of us because we're just like sorry for existing because there's so many times in our lives we've been dismissed or not heard or seen. It's just like a bad habit. So when I feel that I hear these leaders that are still kind of people pleasers who aren't adding, their own level of, I'm not sorry for that. And I'm showing up in my own way. Not only are they helping themselves, but they are helping so many others. And then I get to tell my inner child who never got heard or seen or validated or really just, again, yeah, seen and acknowledged that I did that. And in a way that's like so healing to me because, you know, she was dismissed over and over and over and over and over again. And leaders aren't, again, they're not just breaking their own generational trauma. They have influence. They have people that they are speaking to. And so it's not just like I get to confidently say like it ends with me, but not just me now. I get to be joined by all these other leaders who are influencing other beautiful people. And when it really resonates, they go off and they share this cool thing that they learned to make them feel emotionally safe. Sometimes it's grounding techniques, sometimes it's physical things that they have to keep their body physically safe. Sometimes it's learning little universal codes that they're like, oh my gosh, I just learned this thing. And they get to spread that. And the only thing more genuinely like powerful, I think, than hate is love, because I think hate is love. A lot of us only hate people
Mm,
because we loved them. And so you see these leaders that people look up to, and it's like not only do they get to, again, just influence themselves in their own small circle, but other people. I get to watch and get to be a part of global change. The coaching industry is going into billions, if not trillions at this of dollars of this point of people wanting to be better and committing to being better. And like, that's everything I ever wanted for
mm,
myself, for my parents, for the people around me. I don't even wish bad things on the people that hurt me. I just want them to grow. And when I get to teach leaders specifically, I watch them implement it into their lives, into other people's lives. And it's just like, oh, it's like a breath of fresh air. Like, it's so cool to be a part of. And it's very, very healing and very fulfilling because these things aren't just little things like being tired or feeling disconnected from yourself or your loved one or, fighting with your partner constantly. Sometimes people are fighting about things that aren't actually the problem. You're
mm,
so dysregulated that you're fighting about little things like the dishes when it was never about the dishes. It's for
mm,
the fact that I asked you to do them and you didn't. It's about me not feeling heard or seen or validated.
mm,
And leaders are spending thousands and thousands of dollars hiring all these people, and they don't know how to train them, they don't know how to communicate with them, they don't know how to run these teams, and it's like you implement these little bitty things that go so far. It's like not only are we saving and gaining hundreds of thousands of dollars, but we're actually feeling connected to what we're doing in the first place. And that makes me so happy because you see leaders oftentimes get burnt out and they quit. And they're like, I'm like, well, why'd you quit? And they're like, it's so sad. And they're like, well, because I just couldn't sustain it anymore. And so to help them balance the life and the business and get to see them not have to choose one or the other, like, oh, I'm like just over here, like, yeah, like you go, guys, because it's
mm.
hard. It's hard to
Yeah.
balance a life and a business. They say that some of the two hardest things in the world is being a parent, being an entrepreneur. And many of the leaders I work with are both.
Mm,
So it's so fulfilling. It really is. Because it's hard in the
yeah.
beginning, and every time, we're like, are you sure this is the right way? But then at the end of the day, you just focus on 1% every single day. And
Hmm.
in a year, it's 365%. I'm like, would you trade places with you a year ago? They're like, oh, absolutely not. I'm like, then you're growing, my love. You're
I
growing.
think it's actually
So,
more than that, Gabby, because it's
yeah.
1% times it's a compounding thing when you do 1%
Hmm.
each day, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that very powerful what you're saying, and that that pressure position that a lot of entrepreneurs can be in,
Hmm.
wanting to be the best parents, wanting to
Yeah.
serve people in the highest way, and then also there's a
Yeah.
propensity to neglect oneself to do those things, but the only way to
Hmm.
do those both of those things effectively is to take care of ourselves in the long
Yeah.
run. I mean, maybe you can put on a facade for a while, but that's the very problem
Mm.
that we're
That
we're we're
only
trying to
lasts for so
solve, right?
long. And
Exactly.
people, they get to this level of success and they think that they're not allowed to be human anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are you guys like? You guys are still the same humans, but
Yeah.
it's like they don't open up. They won't ask for help because they're like, well, what if I lose the authority piece? But I'm like,
Yeah.
you will gain so much respect from me personally if you are a multi six, seven figure, eight figure, nine figure business owner who I've worked with many who still open up about their life.
Mm,
about their struggles, about their challenges, and I
yeah.
love them so much more for it. That's
Mm,
why I'm always honest about the things I'm struggling with. I don't speak to my parents. I'm growing and healing from abuse, from domestic violence, from sexual trauma, like all these things I want to be if I ever am multi-millions. I don't want to be famous or anything. I really don't. But if I have influence like that, I want people to see that you get to be a real human being who goes through real
mm,
shit and real pain, and you get to be okay with it. Because these humans, these people we put on this pedestal, they go to the bathroom like we do, they shower
yeah.
every day, they sleep every day, they're just like us. But it makes me sad that they feel like they have to be perfect now and they're not allowed to be humans. And it's like you got the clients, you got the car, you got the fancy everything. And like you said,
Yeah.
you can put on this facade for a while, but eventually you're
Yeah.
gonna burn out. That energetic comes in. This is also where it can ruin your sales. You can lose hundreds of thousands of dollars because you are so burnt out that you're not taking time for yourself. Therefore, you're not making the sales that you need, then you're losing connections, you're losing business
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
didn't take care of yourself. So it's like, oh, I'm just tired, I'm fine, or oh, I just have a little something going on at home. No, if you address those things, your sales will skyrocket, your whole team is going to be incredible, you're going to be
Mm,
crushing it. But we just brush it off like it's no big deal.
hmm.
That's why I'm like, you know what? I don't start my day before 11. I get up at like 7, but I have a very intentional way that I ground myself. I pull my cards, I use my oils, I have crystals, I go for a walk, I collect my chicken eggs. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I dance. Sometimes I do what I need to do. Because every time I would work those 12-hour days, making like 200 bucks a month, and I was burnt out, I was getting nowhere but spinning. But then the
Mm,
days I work now 4 days a week, maybe 5 hour, 6 hour days, and I make $1,000 days
mm,
because I'm well rested, because I get to show up just like woo. So the pressure really kills all good things. Your relationship, your love life, your sales, your trauma healing. So it's
mm,
like if you just have no pressure to just show up as yourself, then you get to be that version of you, that unapologetic, unmasked version of you that we all want to see and we all will respect you for. I mean,
mm.
think of any celebrity or anyone you look up to that has been vulnerable about something they struggle with. Like Mel Robbins does this a lot. She'll take a video, no makeup, just opened her eyes. She's like, I don't want to get up. 5 4 3 2 1, here we go. And she does it. So it's
Yeah.
just do it because you deserve it. Your inner child deserves it. Your business deserves it. Your
Hmm.
relationship deserves it. Like you deserve it. You do.
Yeah.
If someone says you don't, well, yeah, that's their opinion and okay, cool. Thanks for it, but okay.
Probably not someone you want to keep around very long.
Yeah.
And, I
Yeah.
credit I'm grateful you brought up Mel Robbins because it was last year that I listened to one of her shows and she was talking about like being undiagnosed ADHD in your 40s. And I listened to it. I'm like, oh my
ADHD is
goodness.
hard.
Every aspect of what she's saying, it's like ding, 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 ding. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is why I've been struggling because I'm a hypersensitive individual. And I never really knew what everyone
Yeah.
talks. Oh, everyone has OCD, everyone has ADHD.
Yeah.
But I've just never felt like I couldn't fit in. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate her style. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
thank goodness we are in an era where it's moved away from like this high production value
Mm-hmm.
media to really real stuff. And I feel like
Yeah.
a lot of people are concerned with AI because you can create these like hyper realistic things that are just like, you know, amazingly rendered and everything. And yet I feel like that's going to push people even more into those kind of videos. Like I
Yeah.
just woke up and I don't want to get up. And so
Oh yeah.
I appreciate you saying that, Gabby. And,
Because everyone
it's,
has this perfect polished aesthetic.
yeah.
And I've seen clients come to me rolling their eyes, going, if I see one more person with like a perfectly made up face being like, this is how I made 7 figures, I'm gonna rip my hair out. And I'm like, I just ask, I'm like, why does that bother you? She's like, because that's not
Mm,
real. The
yeah.
days like I want to like run away and hide and I'm crying and I'm like panicking in between sessions and I'm trying to say my affirmations because I'm trying to like that is real. And so I'm like, you know what? Like that's why for a long time, I almost like didn't like my niche because I was like, this is a hard niche. This is hard to talk about trauma and relationships and business and balancing it all.
Yeah.
But it's worth it, especially in the world of AI now, where there's a lot of fake stuff. You cannot tell if it's real or not. Some of these videos are so real and it's impressive. It really is. But like, the days that I show up the most just me are the days that I get received as such. So it's like if I can connect with one person, I got to keep doing it because someone out
Mm,
there needs you the way that you are in your humanness, not this
mm,
perfect polished person. And even some of the multi seven-figure people I've known and worked with, they got a good solid little golden handcuffs there. I mean,
yeah,
it's not as glamorous as it looks. So
right.
make it like what's real and authentic for you and then
Hmm.
just like go with that, you know? Like so.
Well, it's a great point too, and I feel like school has brought out in me because I've had these visions of like community centers all around the world, and what would that look like where we're really truly in harmony with one another? To me, heaven is a state of consciousness where we are
Hmm.
um, in unconditional love in the most profound of ways, where
Yeah.
we recognize that it is love truly is the power that heals, that grows, that
Hmm.
evolves,
Absolutely.
and when we can be like perfectly attuned to that, like what are we even
Yeah.
capable of as a species?
So
So this has been
much.
my obsession of the last
Yeah.
several decades, actually, if not lifetimes, I'm sure. And it's interesting because for me, I struggle with the very things you were talking about because with some of my transcendent experiences, I was comparing myself to these
Hmm.
ideal expressions, and I was missing kind of what was evidence. Like, well,
Yeah.
if I were to become like just a light bulb and turn on, like very few people would be able to relate to me or even hear me, or even maybe I don't know, vanish from the planet. So, like our humanness, I feel is such a gift, and I feel like when
Hmm.
we are true stewards and fulfilling our purpose, when we're building something from the root that's soul aligned, and
Yeah.
building from that, whether it's a business or a family or a
Hmm.
community or whatever, I feel like that is so fundamentally important because when you do get to the echelon of success, materialistically in whatever that ways,
Yeah.
you're at least going to be able to appreciate it, and you won't feel like, oh, I created
Yeah.
this like house of cards, and I'm not this person
Hmm.
because you did it just from fear of not having enough or whatever. So
Yeah.
very much appreciate you. I forgot to ask you, Gabby. I know we're past the hour now, so I didn't know if you had this amount of time. We can start
Yeah, I'm
wrapping the
good.
conversation if you're good for that. Um, Something I love to ask guests, but before I do, I want to ask you to let our viewers and listeners know how is the best way to connect with you and to look into the work you're doing, or whether it's to connect with you in community.
Yeah, definitely. So I do have my school community aligned and unapologetic. It's in the bio, usually on my Instagram. My Instagram's Gabby.Roberts, or I'm sorry, GabbyRoberts.coach. I'm usually on those two platforms the most. I do have reach out to everyone who screenshots my podcast, who puts it on their story. If there's the Grow with Gabby podcast. So if you guys are listeners, I always looking to connect. If nothing at all, just to tell you thank you for listening and supporting my growth and just yeah. So Instagram and school mostly is how you can find me.
That's awesome. I love that approach of connecting with people through your podcast. I don't know about you, Gabby, but um, having a podcast has been really uplifting. I feel like it's been such a
Yeah.
vehicle to meet really inspiring people like yourself, and people from all kinds of different perspectives. So I'd imagine that it also has
Yeah.
amplified your ability to be a coach, to hear from all kinds of
Hmm.
divergent perspectives, and to come to
Yeah,
greater
that connection
recognition.
piece is so important to me because, like,
Yeah.
even with me being a coach, I'm not always available to take on more clients, but if I connect with someone, they're either going to be in my space as a friend. In my space is in the Aligned and Unapologetic, which is a free coaching space. It's like, there's so many people who are like, well, I don't have money or I don't have this or I don't have that. And it's like, you don't have to owe me anything. You don't have to earn my love, which I really push on that aspect because there's so many things that people are kind of like, well, what's the catch, you know? And so
Hmm.
I just try to make myself as available for as many conversations as I can because
Hmm.
again, we're either going to be working together, we're going to be friends, we could collab, like we could be business partners, we could be absolutely best friends. There's fun little app that I go on that's Bumble BFF, and the most of the people I meet are people who are now just followers on the Instagram who want to go for coffee, and it's just like so fun getting out there and being that social butterfly, because then people don't realize it's like a kid or is who got taught to go like play on the playground. We don't realize that we're connecting, we're collabing, we're
Mm,
co-regulating
mhm,
just by being friends, just by being kind and
mm,
loving. And like you said, love is the most powerful healer that there is. So
mm.
just more than anything, it's like sometimes I don't my coaching is just like being there for someone. That part is like so underrated is so many times where people don't know what they need. Sometimes they don't need anything but someone to just be there for them, just to
Yeah.
have someone in your corner. So, yeah, I just think that's a great way to one, make new friends, make more connections in your business, but it all starts with just having a conversation
Mm,
and being yourself. So, yeah, I
yeah.
just think it's so cool to have ways that we can connect online and offline to, you know, regulate and meet new people and just spread the love. Because you ever had that person where you're like, I cannot decide, I can't figure out what it is. They just make me feel so calm. And I'm like, hee hee,
Yeah.
that's the energy of the
Yeah.
good people that you surround yourself with. So
Mm,
trust your body, trust your intuition when you meet new people, and
yeah.
yeah, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I like to think of that as presence, and it is something that's greatly
yeah,
under spoken of and underappreciated in our society. And each of us has such a unique presence that we
yeah.
cultivate over time. And I love how you
Mm-hmm.
remind us that it really is deeply reflective of who you surround yourself with. Such an
Mm-hmm.
important consideration.
Yeah.
On this note, Gabby, I I love to ask our inspired guests if you had a megaphone and you could talk to the whole world all at once and share something near and dear to yourself, what would you like to share?
Hmm. That you are good enough just as you are. Like truly, you don't have to run, you don't have to hide. The right people will love you, and the wrong people will leave, and that's okay.
Hmm. Such a powerful reminder. Thank you so much for bringing your wonderful presence on the show, Gabby. We'll put all of the yeah, we'll put all of the details in the show notes for what you spoke about as well. And unless there's anything else that you'd like to share with our audience, I just want to wish you blessings to you and all those who you touch, as well as to all of our listeners out there. And before I invite our daughter up, just do you have anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, just be fearless, be
Hmm.
free, do it scared, do it your way, even if it's messy.
I love that. Yeah. Thank you for such powerful reminders today. And I'm going to
Yes.
take them to heart and do the messy things that make me scared today.
Yeah, do it.
Even with a raspy voice like this.
Yes, do it.
Thanks again, Gabby. Really appreciate you being on the show.
No problem.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone.
For watching.
Digi Rockton.
Say have a great day.
Have a great day.
I love you.
I love you.
See you soon.
Soon.
Hey, bye. Nacho. Mwah.